Welcome back to another episode of Silent Pals Go to the Movies. This is another Throwback Thursday review, and I'm here with my friend Touly. Say hi, Touly.
Hi, guys.
And today we're going to be reviewing Battle Royale. And just a fair warning, there's going to be spoilers up ahead, so you've been warned. In the future, the Japanese government captures a class of 9th grade students and forces them to kill each other under the Revolutionary Battle Royale Act. Battle Royale was released in Japan in the year 2000, but did not officially make it into the US until 2012 in the format of Blu-ray and DVD due to licensing issues with Toei. So why did it get a cult following in the US and big hype in Japan? Well, before the movie, Battle Royale was a novel, then a manga, then finally a live action movie. So many members of the Japanese parliament tried to get the novel banned, but lost. Then they tried again with the movie, but didn't work. It actually made people curious about the book, so they went out to buy it and sales went up. The same thing with ticket sales for the movie. So back in the US, early in the 2000s, if you were into anime and manga, chances were that you heard people online talking about Battle Royale, manga, or the movie. But we didn't get the movie in theaters here like other countries did. But fans found a way to get the movie, and that way was bootlegging the movie until 2012 when the US got the official Blu-ray DVD release. So now let's begin my review with my pros. If you like the movie, you want more. Don't worry, you have the manga, you have the novel, so that you can dive deeper into each character. Let's name some of the cast members in the movie. We have Tatsuya Fujiwara, who plays Shuya. We know him from other live action movies such as Death Note, where he plays Laito. He is also in the live action movie Rurouni Kenshin. Quick side note, for fans of the J-rock group Dion Gray, Kyo, the lead singer of the group, he was offered the role to play Nobu, Shuja's best friend, but his management made him turn it down. So the next actor on the list is Takeshi Kitano, who plays Kitano Sensei. You might remember him from Johnny Mnemonic. He has other good movies in Japan, and some of them that I recommend for you to check out is Hanabi, which translates to fireworks, and the movie Brother. Next we have Chiaki Kuriyama. She plays Chigusa. Most in the US know her as Gogo from Kill Bill. Quick side note, BR is one of Quentin Tarantino's favorite movies, and he liked Kuriyama's performance that he actually casted her specifically for Kill Bill. Next pro on my list, this is a good story idea that we never seen before in the movie adaptation or format, which changed pop culture forever. So much that if not for this movie, gamers would not have PUBG, which is based on the concept of this film. Plus, that's where the game gets the podlit as a weapon. But for those who say the concept is too far-fetched, I see it as a modern modest proposal. For those of you who don't know what a modest proposal is, it's a satire essay written in the 1700s that proposes to stop poor children from being burden to their family or country. They should be sold off as food to the rich. Therefore, both sides benefit by this means. This is how I see the movie, by offering this solution in the BR concept and causing an uproar like it did in Japan, which made people go see it, and by reading the novel, it got the attention of the people. And by watching the movie, they came to analyze it and take away any message they can from the movie. Even if it's the message of your friends can be your friends one day and your enemies the next, or don't trust the government, or respect adults so you won't end up in that mess, or simply violence is never the answer. This movie is meant to make you think, since you can see it from different points of view and different characters. My next pro is I love Kitano's death scene, how he got up after he was shot to answer the phone and tell his daughter a last F you. I know it's cheesy, but I really liked how he wanted to end his life, but he had one last thing to do before he died, and that was to answer the phone. Now on to my cons. Not as much character development as I wanted to see. I know that that's why we have the manga and the novel, but what about the viewers who don't know that those formats exist? They will lose interest like I did in many of the characters in the movie, and they will feel detached from them, and their deaths will be pointless, and they'll end up feeling nothing for them. Which brings me to my next point, the length of the movie. It's long for a bunch of people that I didn't care about. If I would have cared for 2 more people in the film, then I would have found it more interesting and tension grabbing than just gory violence. So cut out some more characters and just focus on a few and make it much better. Next con, how does the class not know about the BR Act? If we saw at the beginning of the film reporters reporting on the girl who had won the last BR, they could have at least said, oh yeah, that law or that tournament, instead of just acting like they were all clueless. That really threw me off and got me out of the movie. Also, the hacker's homemade bomb going off like it did, I would have liked it if it went off and it took a few soldiers or a helicopter to make a bigger impact for all their efforts they put into making this homemade bomb, instead of just being blown up in front of their building. It seemed like it was anticlimactic. Also, I wanted to see more of Kitano's background story with his daughter and what was the fallout with him and his wife. That would have been a very interesting thing to get to explore and basically get to know that character more. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to my friend Touly and see how he saw this movie and what grade he gave this movie.
So my review of the movie is going to be based strictly on the film itself and not any of the source material for two reasons. A, I haven't read any of the source material stuff, and B, normally when I judge a film that's based off of like said source material, I would like to keep it independent so that if I do end up going back to experience the source material, I could sort of differentiate between the two forms of media, in that if I end up liking one more over the other, I can sort of contain it within that sort of medium. But that's just how I normally do things. So for this film, Battle Royale, yeah, there were stuff that I enjoyed about it and stuff that sort of broke my suspension of belief. The music, I guess for starters, I think it did a decent job at elevating or at least capturing the sort of mood, the sort of vibe that the movie was going for. Even from the get-go, I really liked the music. And I can't recall specifically the name of the music, but it sounded very familiar at the beginning when you just saw like the title or the company that was making the film. When I heard that music, I was thinking, oh, like this film is going to be crazy, sort of like out of control, wacky, absurd. It just gave me that feeling. And if the music is able to sort of dictate that in a film and does it well, then I have to give it credit for that. I would say that the music in this film was able to do that for me. Sal mentioned some of the actors for this film and some of the roles that they played in other movies, and I've seen those movies as well. I guess just for recognizing these actors and actresses and the sort of jobs they were able to do in their profession. I thought the acting in this film, it was good, but definitely probably based off the amount of time allocated to develop some of these characters. As Sal mentioned, I think it really did a disservice to maybe how some of these characters could have had a bigger role or a bigger impact on how maybe some of the main characters could have reacted in the sort of situation they came across. And I feel like because of the limited character development, that when some of these characters got killed off, I didn't really care for them. Sounds kind of bad because, I mean, we're talking about students being put into a position to either kill or be killed. I feel that if this movie, for instance, was a TV series, that we as an audience might have gone this sort of pacing with the characters that might have made us more invested in them. But I get it, movie format, they have to sort of speed things up so that we can get to the more important stuff, if you want to put it in that light. If they just even reduce the number of students involved in this, just focus on these particular individuals and sort of reason out as to why these particular students were chosen, rather than combining them into one class and generalize that this class was filled with individuals who weren't respectful, and because of that, everybody had to sort of now deal with this battle royale situation, which I find ironic because of the teacher, in that how he revealed how he felt about Noriko, how much she kind of meant to him as a daughter. I found that ironic. I mean, if you truly felt that way about a person, then why would you put that person in said danger? Sure, like maybe you weren't gonna end up killing her at the end, but you have no control over the other students and what they could have done to her. I found it ironic and hypocritical of what he said to her. I thought maybe they could have come up with like a different reason. Maybe if they showed that she was always being protected in this very special way and they just couldn't figure out why, but she was just as much as the other students put in this realm of danger and her life was being jeopardized, throughout the film. The absurdity of this film, some parts, I found it over the top, kind of funny. It was just a mixture of that and with the way some of these individuals died, that I couldn't help but facepalm at at times. Again, I know that these students are not accustomed to what they're doing, but you would think that some of their decision making though would be more realistic in that, for example, I wouldn't necessarily be charging at another person who has a gun pointed at me. There was that one scene where one of the girls wanted to poison Shuya, but instead ended up killing indirectly the other girls who were around her. She witnessed what Shuya quote unquote did to one of the other students, even though Shuya was practically trying to defend himself. But the gunfight just within that scene itself though, like it's things like that where bullets are flying everywhere, and I'm amazed that it took the girls that amount of bullets to just go off for them to eventually succumb to their demise. It's things like that that to me is too over the top. And then the hackers, definitely a couple of things were coming to mind when they kept on coming back to these fellas that made me scratch my head, was how they got around not communicating their plans to the instructor and the military, who were supposedly keeping an eye on everybody through the monitor system, and the fact that the collar that the students were wearing had built-in microphones in them, I believe, for these hackers to just cover up the microphone while talking to sort of avoid communicating to the people who they suspect were monitoring them. I mean, if it's as simple as covering the microphone to sort of foil the plans of the military and the instructor, then why couldn't the military and the instructor themselves have thought about this? It wasn't like they went through this elaborate scheme to sort of cause a malfunction in the collar. I found that not very believable. If they just did something else, that maybe would have convinced me that through some sort of technology that they were able to rattle the system. But no, they were just covering it with their hand. This didn't do it for me. And Sal mentioned how the payoff for these hackers' effort not coming to fruition in the light that would have made the payoff more resounding. Like, I agree with what Sal said there. And I forget the student's name. He was one of the individuals who wasn't part of the class but just chose to participate in the tournament. I think he was the main guy who just enjoyed going about and taking the students' lives. To me, he had this Terminator sort of feel to him, but the way some of these students reacted to this guy, how some of them just froze while this guy was coming after them. One of the students who I was a little more attached to, she ended up dying to him when he shot her 3 or 4 times. To me, it seemed like she felt no pain as she was getting shot. It just comes back to the idea of like, the film is supposed to be absurd and really out there, but it still has to be believable too at times, and sometimes they don't capture these moments, and because of that, my suspension of disbelief gets broken. Ending on a positive note, just the fact alone that this movie in general, the source material was able to influence other forms of medium, ranging from books to video games, I think that says a lot. At least for me personally, I have either been involved in these other said mediums, either through viewership or through experience, because I do play video games myself, so I can at least appreciate that. Normally when I speak in terms of a movie I review here on the podcast with Sal, that I come to realize that it has influenced something else later down the road, I at least take that recognition into consideration as to how I feel about the film overall. So I think in the end, I'm gonna give the film a 7 out of 10. It's definitely one of those films that is unique based on the time when it was released, that is, that I could say, oh, I've seen or experienced something like this before. And if it did exist, then I wasn't aware of it. If you sort of want to get a feeling as to maybe how some of the things that you're currently into that has this battle royale sort of vibe to it, then maybe you could check out this film.
Touching upon what Touly just said, I totally agree with what he said. This movie would have worked for me better if they would have taken 40 minutes of it to establish the characters in the classroom setting, then you jump into the battle royale scene. That for me would have worked. That way we have the background for some characters, we get attached to some characters, we know who they are. The other thing is, like Touly said, this was a big influence to other pop culture references. For example, a lot of people have brought up Hunger Games. One thing is that right after Battle Royale, we got the Hunger Games, and there was a director who got the rights to remake Battle Royale in America, but he said that he couldn't because people who did not know Battle Royale from Japan would just think it was a knockoff from the Hunger Games. And in a sense, I agree with him. In a sense, you can't do it justice because people would just say, hey, you know, this is a movie, it's going to rip off the Hunger Games without knowing that Battle Royale came first. So my grade is going to be the same as Touly, 7 out of 10. It's a unique film. If you enjoy it, you enjoy it. If you don't, you didn't. But at least you saw the movie. So I guess with that, this wraps up the review for Battle Royale. Please join us next time when we're going to review Four Brothers.
I don't get it. This woman's such a goddamn saint. How'd she end up raising 4 total fuck-ups?
Miss Evelyn psychoed hundreds of kids out of the foster care system and into permanent homes. And in 30 years, she only came across 4 lost causes. 4 delinquents so far gone, she couldn't find anyone to take them in. So she did. Trust me, Fowler. These kids are congressmen compared to what they would have been.
Please like, comment, and subscribe. You can find our social media links below. And like always, keep watching movies.